Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So, I was looking at a bunch of Smokey Robinson interviews last night, and so this is one of the things is I'll do when I do research on my story, I'll just start looking, like last night I watched a bunch of Smokey Robinson interviews, so I'm looking for information related to my story. So what happens is each and every single time when I start going to look, I find stuff, good stuff. This is what always happens, and it's not because I'm making stuff up and the stuff of what's there, it's constantly there over and over in depths of like what it is too. It's not just like I find a little thing and I'm gonna use that. This is stuff that's like, there's so much there. What happens is like, there's too much there. I can't even show you how much stuff it is, and it's complicated for me to put it together, but let me show you some of this stuff because it's like, whoa, this is some crazy shit. Like this happened. This is weird. This is some weird stuff. Watch this.
Your dad was a special man in your life, wasn't he? He was nicknamed Five. Where did you get that from?
Well, he was, he started his young life working in a bowling alley. And he was, in those days, rather than having the automatic pin setters, they had what they call pin boys. Mm-hmm. And the guys worked the lanes, and when the people threw the balls down, they jumped out of the way, and then they left the pin standing there that was left, you know. But he always worked Alley 5, so his friends called him Five, and that name stuck with him for his whole life.
How old were you when you met and then married your wife?
I was 14 when I met her, and I married her when I turned 19.
So, the first thing about his wife, so he's 14 when he meets Claudette, and she's a couple years younger, so she's at the most she's 12, so this was like one of those things with when we're talking about Diana Ross being 14 and Smokey being 17, and they're in the same neighborhood, and you can see it's like that's what was going on, and being the ages of what they were there's nothing unusual or uncommon about it whatsoever, at all. Like he says, he's 14 when he really starts, he meets Claudette, 19 when he marries her, and I know he's dating her for a long time because she's in the band, and he's dating her when she's 15, I know he's dating her when they're doing, when they first do their first audition. So he was 17 when they did that first audition at Brunswick. She's in the band, so she's like 15, but they're dating at that time, so... that stuff is like crazy. There's so much more there. But the other thing, his dad was nicknamed Five. So like how Smokey's real name is William, but he goes by the name Smokey, William Smokey Joe, but so everybody calls him Smokey. But his real name is William. So his real dad would have his name, but everybody called him Five. His actual nickname, just like how Smokey is Smokey, his dad's nickname is Five. Okay? That's crazy. So I didn't put this video together really quick, but I'm going to click over. I didn't set it up really, really good. So I'm going to click over here and show you a couple of the other things I want you to see, though. And here we go. Let's go to this. Okay, we're going to go to this. Let's go to those kids. These kids did a good interview here of Smokey. So I'm going to go to the first part here. Okay, let's see. I have here marked a couple times. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to hear, so it's like, okay, I know I marked the time here. This is something I wanted to play. So here we go. Actually, shoot, I got the wrong time on that one. I want to hear this part first. There it is. Okay, this I didn't even to show. I didn't need to. You don't need to hear it, I just need to show you. They were saying when you were 6 years old, they were saying he was doing a thing, and then they showed this picture of Smokey, okay, in the interview. Okay, so this is a drawing somebody had done, is what they were saying. This is a drawing somebody had done of Smokey Robinson when he was 6 years old, okay? But so whoever the person's name is that did the thing, who actually drew it, their name, I'm assuming that's who drew the thing, right? So their name's Jackson. It's spelt different, but it's Jackson. It's Jackson. So this is one of these things, is like how I'm setting this up, and one of the things I'm talking about, like how God works in mysterious ways. And this shows you in with this stuff, it shows you how we're all connected in really weird ways and weird things. And what this is this is the reality of this is God, of how this stuff goes on and what's taking place. It's like, well, how do you explain this? It's like, well, this is what God is. This is how things work in the world, and we're all connected. And that's how these people, they understand this stuff too. Weird things. And so you got to understand, like Smokey, his side of what was going on. When I'm going to show you this other stuff, it's like, whoa, Smokey's got a crazy story too. And in his story now, when Michael comes back on him, and now I see this other information, I'm like, wow, this stuff must have hit Smokey. It must have been, it must have been really weird for him. But isn't that crazy? So what's the name on it? Jackson. You know, it's just like, and that's just way before any of the Michael Jackson stuff. So on this one, so now the next one, okay, here we go. There was a bunch of stuff here on this next part. There is a bunch of stuff, so I'm gonna be, I'll let it play, but I'll stop it a couple times because there's some funny stuff. So here we go.
Time growing up.
How did you deal with your mother's death at the age of 10 years old?
My world stopped. It was like the end of the world for me, you know, because my mom was my person. So it was really devastating. It was a heavy blow to me when I was 10 years old to think that I wasn't going to have my mom anymore.
Okay, so I didn't know that. So Smokey's mother passed away when he was 10 years old. And it's one of this stuff about, you look at Smokey too. In this interview here, this is an interview on, it says Part 1, Smokey Robinson documentary and interview, Cannell Point, KECTV is the page it's on. And it's these kids, they got a good little interview here, and they're interesting stuff. And so I didn't know Smokey's mother passed away when he was 10. Okay, so now think of the reality of like, see, like here, instead of me trying to bring the story all together, I'm going to do it as I'm going through and stuff, parts of it. So, like I'm saying, Smokey Robinson gave Michael Jackson away, okay? And then Michael Jackson came back when he was like 10 years old. That's like when they signed to Motown, you know? Michael's like 10, you know? So, Smokey Robinson, in his real life, he lost his mother when he was 10 years old. Michael Jackson, in real life, finds out who his real mother is when he's 10 years old. Like, see the contradiction of it's the similarity, it's the same, but completely the opposite? And that's how it happens within the thing. And then Smokey Robinson's dad's nickname is 5. And when Michael Jackson comes back to him as part of this band, the band is named the Jackson 5. So like Smokey, he's seeing there's little 5. There's 5, there's 5. You know, so in his head, when he's like, you got to be kidding me, the Jackson 5, that's your name? Like, that's what I'm saying, the subtleties of like what would have happened and all of these things. And then with Michael being like 10 years old when he comes to Motown, now we got to realize that Smokey had given that kid away, and now the kid's coming back at like 10 years old, where Smokey in his life had lost his mother when he was 10 years old, you know? It's just like, wow, this is heavy shit.
But, you know, at 10 years old, you kind of, you know, you go on, and my oldest sister came back to live in our house, and she raised me. So my oldest sister was like my mom also.
Is it true that Diana Ross was your next door neighbor when you were growing up?
Diana Ross lived 4 doors down the street from me, on a street called Belmont in Detroit. And I've known Diana Ross since she was probably about 9 years old. Yeah, she grew up the same street.
Did you play with her?
That was hard. Did you play with her, Smokey? Did you play with her, Smokey? See, it's funny how it just came out like that. And look how Smokey, like the way he's just sitting there. It's just, and see, now Smokey knows the story, and now he's got this little kid. These kids asking him, did you play with her? And you know what the kids say, like, did you play with her, like kids and stuff. But the way it's worded, Smokey's an adult, he knows the story. So what he's hearing in his life and stuff, it's got to just be like, oh my God, you know? But so the part about Diana Ross, yeah, okay, she lives four doors down, you know? And she's a little younger. He'll explain that a little bit better. But I just love that part where he says, did you play with her? Did you play with her, Smokey? Was you playing with Diana?
Well, I didn't actually play with her. I was a little older than her. I didn't actually play with her. But she was at my house all the time because one of my nieces was her really good friend. And she was at our house all the time playing, or else my niece was at her house and what have you. But I saw her all the time.
Yeah, so that's what he says. Okay, so he's saying there, he's known Diana since she's like 9, the other one's here, 8, whatever, all this stuff. But so, like, she lives 4 doors down. She's, like, right there. You know, we're not talking about these big houses. It's in the Brewster Douglas projects in Belmont, you know. So they're, you know, there's 4 doors down. And then, and now he's, like, Smokey's living arrangement and stuff. It's like, what's going on exactly there? It's kind of weird to know. Now I know his mother's passed away. And his older sister is kind of raising him. They're in that house, but then there's, like, he says a niece of his or whatever, which I heard Diana say it was his cousin or whatever. She would say it was his cousin. Sharon, that was her name. But and that's why she would say she was best friends with his cousin. He says niece or whatever. So it's those little tricky things. But we know that there's a family member that's in Smokey's house that Diana is also best friends with her. And so it's not just that Diana is just a girl and she's trying to mess around with the boys, whatever. No, she's actually best friends with somebody that lives in Smokey Robinson's house. And like I said, they're there all the time. She's staying the night. She's always there. So that's what I wanted to say is, like, when I first came about my story about Diana Ross being the mother of Michael Jackson, okay, so I don't know anything about the Smokey Robinson at this time, but that's the stuff that I go find through an investigation. And the reality is at the time when Michael Jackson is conceived, Diana Ross is literally, like, in and out of Smokey Robinson's house, staying the night in his house. She's right there. Okay, it's Smokey. Okay, but that's how I found Smokey and stuff. It's because that's the reality of what was going on. Who was the person? It was Smokey. It was. So I'll play this some more. I know there's more. Let me see how. Yeah, there's a little bit more on this part here.
Who was your favorite singer when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, my favorite singer was a guy named Jackie Wilson. Now, I don't know if you ever even heard of Jackie Wilson, but Jackie Wilson was the #1 singer in my world at that time. He was just a great singer. He was a great showman, and I absolutely loved Jackie Wilson.
Okay, so Smokey's actual favorite singer was Jackie Wilson, and so when I heard that, it's like, well, I think that's why he goes to the Brunswick studio and when he meets Berry Gordy and stuff. And so, see, I knew that he knew Berry Gordy, but I didn't know that his favorite singer was Jackie Wilson, that he totally knew who Berry Gordy was because Berry Gordy was writing the songs for Jackie Wilson. So, you know, he just never met Berry Gordy, but Smokey totally knows who Berry Gordy is. Like, he knows there's a guy named Berry Gordy that's writing the songs for Jackie Wilson, who's his favorite artist, his favorite singer, you know? So I didn't know that Smokey, and so when I heard that, it makes me think, okay, well, that's why Smokey went to the Brunswick studio, because that was Jackie Wilson's manager. So that's why he goes there, because he's thinking, oh, Jackie Wilson, right? I'm gonna go see for the people that are making him a star. I'm gonna go see if I can go be with him. That's why he goes to that place, you know? So that's what I'm saying, like these subtle things of how God works in mysterious ways. It's because he was a fan of Jackie Wilson. It was because Berry Gordy was writing songs for Jackie Wilson. That's what puts Smokey to get to go to that Brunswick studio to do an audition for the manager of Jackie Wilson, but he's turned down there. But what happens is he meets Berry Gordy there. That's how okay, so now if that meeting doesn't happen, that's like the hardcore reality. if that meeting doesn't happen between Smokey Robinson and Berry Gordy, man, I mean, when you know the real history of everything, that doesn't happen, we're in it. Okay, there is no Michael Jackson ever. He never would have been born because Smokey doesn't hook up with Berry Gordy, so he doesn't go back in the neighborhood and tell Diana, so she doesn't hook, so she doesn't, he wouldn't have had sex with her. He would have just went into his relationship with Claudette. Like, that's how fragile and delicate these things are that are happening. Like, if those exact things don't happen at the exact time, like, literally, like Michael Jackson, like, that's how fragile his birth was and his existence on this planet. Look at how easily that little frame of time when that happened, the reality of what happened, and then boom, Smokey ended up having sex with Diana. You're talking about a moment in time that could have been missed very easily. I mean, it's incredible that it actually happened. And then think about how simple that could have not happened. Then the reality is how they give the kid away. Then the kid comes back in a band named the Jackson 5. And Smokey's like, oh, this is the kid we came back, and now he's in a band and they're calling him the Jackson 5. And he's like, Smokey's like in his head, he's like, my dad's name is 5, And all this stuff, the combination, I'm saying, that's some trippy shit. Think about like what they actually had to go through and all this stuff. It is some crazy stuff. So there's a couple more things here I wanted to show you. See, I didn't set this up. Gotta get these darn ads
Try
in
it
here.
free.
Oh, damn it. I hate when they double up the ads and stuff. See, I should. That's
This
what I'm
summer,
talking about.
the world mourned the passing of the king of pop, Michael Jackson. Officiating the memorial celebration was another iconic figure, Smokey Robinson. Smokey is a music legend in his own right and is often referred to as the king of the Motown sound.
That's just like that little part at the beginning is just pretty crazy. So let me show you the other parts that I want you to see here. Okay, now let's see. So like I said, I don't know exactly what I'm going to see here, so let's play it here and see what it says.
Spiritual going on in you back then?
Since I was a little bitty boy, I always felt like God was watching me.
Right, like that thing. Since I was a little bitty boy, I always felt like God was watching me. There's a thing with Smokey that he's really aware of this presence of God, and it sure seems to interact in his life.
And I don't know why. I guess because he was. Because, in growing up, my friends would do things in growing up that I wouldn't do because I felt like God was watching me.
That's like just straight, like, where it shows you, that's the part of like being a good person. It's like, that shows you from a young age there was something about Smokey. And it's like a thing about with Michael. There's a thing about him. There's this, and it's not like when you look at the Jackson family, okay? You look at Joseph and Catherine, and you could look at all of those people. The inner beauty and being and the soul of what they are, the Jackson people, it's not the natural thing of what Michael is. But when you start looking at Smokey and Diana, you'll start seeing, oh my God, that's exactly the natural who Michael is on the inside. You'll see that's exactly who he is. That's his real parents, that's why. Okay, so now let's see what this part here, another part.
I guess I just got curious, and so I started to delve into cocaine. I used to like to smoke weed, and I would put it in my weed and smoke it like that, And it got kind of, bad. And I went through that for 2.5 years.
How you break it?
I didn't. God did,
God did?
Yeah. I had gone down to my last legs. I was stepping off the cliff. I let myself deteriorate, and a friend of mine came, got me, and took me to a prayer service where I was prayed for. And when I went in there, I was an addict. And when I came out, I was free. And that was in May of 1986.
So, he said he was an addict for about 2.5 years. When he got clean, it was in May of 1986. So, that would put his alignment in the start of his drug addiction right about that time of Michael's superstardom, right? So, and I mean, there's other things going, like he talks about like Marvin Gaye, when Marvin Gaye had passed away and stuff. But with Smokey, the thing is he never did drugs. Like he said, maybe he smoked a little bit, but he never was a drug addict. He never was into drugs, never something. But in his real life, he did become a drug addict for a short period of time. And when was that short period of time? When his lost child of what I'm saying, Michael Jackson, because now remember, he's away from Motown too. Now Michael Jackson has stepped out on his own. He's this bigger star, bigger than everybody. And now Smokey, in reality, he's having to deal with that. In reality, there's things that, he had to deal with that stuff. And in real life, in his life, what happened at that time when Michael became the biggest star in the world, what actually happened? Smokey turned into a drug addict. Because now, doesn't that show a combination of like he's dealing with physical and emotional things that he's not sure of how to deal with? And what does he do at that time? He becomes a drug addict. He allows himself to go into drugs, which he never would have done. It's just these things that are these odd things, and you can see how it aligns with the other issues of what are going on within the context of the story of what I'm saying. It's all right there constantly and over and over. Every time I watch these videos with Smokey, it's just like, there's so much here. There's way too much. There's more and all of this stuff. And it's hard for me to think, well, how do I put this together? And that's what I was thinking. Is like, I was watching these videos last night and I had to turn it off. It's like, I go looking for information. I find too much. Information. That's my problem. It's not like I have to, that's what I always know is because this is what happens in my mind. I have to set myself in the mind to say, okay, I'm going to actually search a little bit into this kind of area. Like last night I searched into some Smokey Robinson interviews, okay? But I have to prepare myself for when I do this kind of search, because I understand when I'm going to do this search, I'm going to see stuff, and then it's going to make me go look into other stuff, and what's going to happen is I'm going to do a real freaking investigation, and all this stuff's going to start being brought out at me, and I'm going to start thinking about all this stuff. What does it mean, And like one of the things with the Smokey's mother, I was always thinking that Smokey's mother was alive at the time. But now, what always happens too is like if I'm wrong about one of my assumptions, what I'll find out is when the real information comes out, it just goes to better my story. It just betters my story in a lot of the situations when you hear the reality of what the Smokey was dealing with, lost his mom at 10 years old. So the environment of what he was, oh boy, it's just crazy. And so, he was a young man, Oh man. And it's just, it's brutal. And, if you could see the environment, like when he says, yeah, let's go ahead and give the kid away, because the Berry, he was so in with Jackie Wilson and then the Berry Gordy, and you could see the connection with him and the respect he has with Berry Gordy, and if Berry Gordy's saying, oh, well, dude, you're going to need to get rid of that kid if you want to be a part of this company now. And he's like, that's what I want to do. Yeah, I want to be a part of the company. So yeah, that was the thing. We didn't put that in the works, and that's how it got into the works and all of it. And you can see how Diana knows that she screwed them up, but how did she, if she gave the kid up, when you look at how she comes back roaring into Motown, you can see that she roared into Motown with the vengeance of the young mother who gave her kid up to help them benefit the, beginning of Motown and their all future stardom and everything. You can see that that's the vengeance that she rolls into Motown with, why she becomes deemed as the boss, You can see how all of those things now, when you understand my story and all this stuff, you can see how it perfectly explains everything. And what only will happen is with the better information I get, the more and more and more, it only will help to clarify my story. That's the only thing that you're ever going to get is more clarity to my story. So I just keep going and I just keep wondering how can Michael Jackson fans not care about this? This is happening and there is no doubt about it. Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual parents, and I can't get Michael Jackson's fans to care. And now I have to deal with, that's what I'm dealing with, And like I said, you people don't know, it's like, and with all the stuff of what I deal with, it's like, the things I have, like I'm at the point where I'm asking myself, I don't know if I'm going to live through this. The people you don't know. That's where I'm at. I don't know. I fucking got a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, and I put the work out here and shit, but am I going to even live to see this shit come through? I don't know. God works in mysterious ways. And it's like, I'm not fearful of what I'm going to miss out on that world and being a part of that. I'm fearful of what you people are going to miss out on and the opportunity of allowing me to be a part of that world and getting my opinions and experiences of what happens there. Yeah, because if that happens, then you're going to get experience. I'm going to experience things. I'm going to get my opinions are going to start to be heard and stuff. I would be part of that world. But if I die and I don't get, that's the one thing, you don't get any of that stuff. And then you can live in that world without that. You know, it's like one of these things. I'm here now, but I might not be there when that's occurring. You know, just like I say with all this stuff. I actually came up with an idea in my head too, because I've always thought that when the story breaks that I would do one big television interview, and but today I actually realized no, I don't want to let them interview me. The TV show that needs to be done is that I want to interview Smokey and Diana and Berry Gordy. That's the TV show. That's the one. So like when the TV people call me and they say, we want to do an interview, I'm going to say, no, this is what I want. I want to interview Smokey, Berry, and Diana. Let me interview them. That's the show. That's the one that's going to like be groundbreaking, like, oh my God, what will happen on that interview, the monumental, life-changing thing of what will happen, because I will dig into those people, because it's like the pains of what I'm dealing with, I'm going to come at them and make them explain the pains of what they're dealing with, because it's fucking with me too. And I'm not going to allow them to get off on anything. That's the interview. But that's what I keep telling the fans is like, they're alive. Smokey's alive. Diana's alive. Berry Gordy's alive. I'm alive. Right now, we can make this happen. That interview can happen within the next year. Or we all could just start dying and then y'all have fun in this world by yourselves.